What would you do if the man you were sent to destroy became the only person who ever truly saw you? She is an undercover cop, embedded inside one of the most feared Latino gangs in the city. He is their leader, born in the barrio, raised in violence, crowned by loyalty and fear. She should have arrested him the moment she got close, but instead, she crossed a line she can never uncross. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't just a love story. It's a slow-motion car crash between duty, desire, and a man the law calls a criminal, but her heart calls something else. Have you ever met someone you were absolutely sure you should walk away from, but every step you took only pulled you closer? That's what happened to her. On paper, she was everything the badge demanded: disciplined, focused, unshakable. Years debriefing gang cases, studying territory wars, learning how loyalty works when it's written not in contracts, but in blood. She knew the names, the symbols, the colors. She knew how the streets whispered about one man in particular, a leader who rose from the barrio, not through politics, but through scars. His name carried weight in every alley and every backroom deal. Mothers pulled their kids inside when his crew rolled past. Rivals didn't say his name out loud unless they were ready to die for it. He was the kind of man her unit had spent years trying to take down. And then, he became the man she had to get close to. Her mission sounded simple when it was nothing but ink on paper. Go undercover in the neighborhood, blend in, find a way. Into the gang's orbit. Get close enough to hear what no microphone could capture. Close enough to see what no drone could spot. Close enough to him. She told herself it was just another assignment. A step up in her career. A chance to finally make a dent in something bigger than a few street dealers. A chance to stop the flow of blood before it reached more bodies on cold concrete. But the thing about getting close to monsters is this. Sometimes, when you look them in the eye, you don't see a monster at all. You see a human being, a man who grew up choosing between hunger and crime, between being invisible or being feared. The first time she saw him in person, she expected to feel hatred, disgust, that clean, cold clarity of knowing she was on the right side and he was on the wrong. Instead, she felt something she never trained for: curiosity. Why did a gang leader stop to help a child pick up spilled groceries in the middle of a chaotic street? Why did he tell his own men to stand down when some drunk idiot bumped into him at a bar, instead of snapping his fingers and starting a war? Why did his eyes look so tired when he thought no one was watching? She was supposed to dissect his organization, but he was the one dissecting her, watching how she moved, how she listened more than she spoke, how she didn't flinch at the sound of distant gunshots. He noticed everything, long before she realized he had already figured out what she was. She should have arrested him, turned him, and called for backup the moment she understood how close she was getting. But every time their paths crossed, the line between cop and criminal blurred just a little more. Because the truth is, love doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't check your badge. It doesn't care about your record, your rank, or the laws you swore to uphold. Sometimes, love grows in the one place it should never exist, between a woman who lives by the law and a man who survives by breaking it. Stay with me until the end of this story, because when secrets explode and loyalties are tested, you'll see exactly why. She should have arrested him, not fallen for him. And yet, deep down, some part of you might understand why she did. The day everything started didn't look like the beginning of a disaster. It looked like a promotion. She was sitting across from her commanding officer in a windowless room that smelled like old coffee and burned out fluorescent lights. Files were spread across the table. Mugshots, crime scene photos, surveillance stills, maps marked with red lines and names. The gang's presence painted over the city like an infection. At the center of it all, there was one photo that seemed to weigh more than the others. A man in his early 30s, dark eyes, faint scar along his jaw. No visible fear in his expression, only a strange mix of control and exhaustion. In the image, he wasn't posing. He wasn't even aware the camera existed. he was just walking out of a small bodega, holding a paper bag, as if he were any other man going home after a long day. Except he wasn't. "That's the one," her boss said, tapping the photo. "He runs half of this side of the city, and he's the key to the rest. Name's Alejandro Cruz, but on the streets they just call him Cruz." She'd heard the name before. You couldn't work organized crime without hearing it whispered like a warning. "He's not cartel," her boss continued. "Not officially. He's neighborhood born. But he's tied to people who are. That makes him useful, dangerous, and very hard to touch." She kept her voice steady. "What do you need from me?" "I need you to go where we can't. His world is closed. Family, barrio. People who only talk to people who look like they've lived the same life. That's not me, that's you." The words were meant as a compliment. They still hit a nerve. She had grown up in a neighborhood not so different from Cruz's, just on the other side of a line that the city pretended was invisible. She knew the language, the rhythm, the codes. She knew what it meant to have police roll past you, not as protectors, but as a reminder of how far away safety really was. Now she wore the badge. Now they wanted her to go back. "Infiltrate his circle," her boss said. "Get us eyes and ears inside. Friends, girlfriends, cousins, anyone who gets close to him. He moves through the same 3 blocks like he owns them. I want to know what he says when he thinks no one's listening." She nodded, but something inside her twisted. It was one thing to study men like Cruz from behind a desk. It was another to walk into their world and pretend to belong. "Any questions?" he asked. "Just one," she thought. "How much of myself do I have to lose to catch him?" Out loud she said, "No." The first step was simple: disappear. Her badge went into a safe. Her gun was replaced by a cheaper, unregistered one that looked like it had changed hands too many times. Her hair changed, clothes too. The neat, neutral wardrobe of a detective gave lugar to jeans faded in all the right places, hoodies, scuffed sneakers, jewelry that looked fake but wasn't, makeup that said tired, not polished. In a matter of days, Officer became just another woman trying to survive the barrio. She rented a small room over a hardware store near Cruz's territory. Thin walls, noisy nights, music bleeding from cars that never seemed to turn their engines off. The air smelled like frying food, exhaust, and too many. Stories no one had written down. From the window she watched the kids playing soccer in alleys, watched women hauling groceries up cracked stairs, watched men with tattoos and hard eyes leaning against corners like they were part of the architecture. And eventually, she saw him. Not from a file, not from a grainy, still frame, but in motion. Laughing at something one of his men said, slapping someone on the back, taking a bill from a pocket and handing it to an old woman struggling with a broken cart. The neighborhood seemed to shift around him, like he was both its gravity and its storm. She had come there as a cop on a mission. But the first time she saw Alejandro Cruz with her own eyes, something happened that wasn't in the plan. Her heart misfired just once, a tiny, traitorous skip. It was nothing. It meant nothing. She told herself that as she left the window, as she went downstairs, as she walked out into the same street where he stood. This was just another assignment. He was just another target. And the fact that he looked up at her, eyes locking with hers for half a second too long, was just coincidence. At least, that's what she still believed on that first day, before he smiled like he already knew exactly who she was and what she was there to do. It didn't take long for the neighborhood to test her. In places like that, people could smell an outsider, the way wolves smelled fear. Every step she took was watched. Every word she spoke was weighed. And every silence was interpreted as either weakness or threat. She kept her head down, blending into the rhythm of the streets, learning faces, learning who leaned where, who owed what to whom, who talked too much, and who didn't talk at all. Her job was to move without drawing attention. But Alejandro Cruz had a way of noticing things no one else did. It happened on a humid afternoon, the kind that made the whole barrio feel like it was breathing. She was coming out of a corner store with a cheap soda in hand when two of Cruz's men blocked her path. They weren't being subtle. Intimidation was the whole point. "Never seen you around," one said, eyes scanning her from head to toe like she was a puzzle he didn't like the shape of. "You knew?" the other asked, stepping closer. She kept her posture relaxed, shoulders loose, gaze steady, not aggressive, not scared. The balance was everything. "Just moved in," she said. "What's it to you?" The first man smirked. "Everything here is our business." She felt her body tense just enough for her hand to inch toward her pocket. Not the gun, just the pocket. The movement alone made the two men stiffen. That's when she heard it. A low voice behind them. Calm. Controlled. With that dangerous kind of softness that only powerful men could afford to use. "Back off." The two men straightened like soldiers hearing their general, and then she saw him, Alejandro Cruz, stepping out of the shadows beside the bodega. He wasn't dressed like a kingpin. No gold chains, no flashy watches, no exaggerated swagger, just a fitted t-shirt, dark jeans, and that aura, the one that made the entire street pause, just for a second, the way prey freezes when the predator enters the frame. His eyes locked onto hers immediately. Not curious, not suspicious, just knowing. "What's your name?" he asked. Her heartbeat spiked, but she kept her voice steady. "Lena." He repeated it once, like tasting the syllables. "Lena. You staying around here?" "Yeah," she shrugged lightly. "Got a room near Morales Hardware." He nodded slowly, eyes narrowing just a fraction. A test. He was weighing her truth, or what he thought was the truth. Then, without breaking eye contact, he turned to his men. "She's fine," he said. Simple. Cold. Final. The men stepped back immediately, giving her space. But Alejandro didn't leave. He took a slow step toward her, hands in his pockets, posture loose. But there was nothing casual about him. His presence alone felt like pressure on the chest. "You're not from here," he said quietly. She forced a small smirk. "No one is at first." He didn't smile, didn't blink, just studied her, really studied her, as if trying to see the story behind her eyes. And for the first time she felt her cover stress at the edges. He tilted his head slightly. "You move like someone who's used to watching crowds." Her pulse skipped for a split second before she forced a laugh. "Or maybe I just don't like getting mugged." He didn't laugh, but the corner of his mouth twitched, the smallest hint of amusement. "Be careful, Lena," he said finally. "This neighborhood doesn't trust strangers, and neither do I." It was not a threat. It was a warning, given not to push her away, but to see how she reacted. She held his gaze steady. "I'll keep that in mind." A silence stretched between them, thick, electric, tense enough to make the air feel heavy. Two people who shouldn't have been looking at each other the way they were. Then Alejandro stepped aside, giving her the path. She walked past him, but she felt his eyes on her back until she turned the corner. The moment she was out of sight, she released a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Because for the first time since the mission began, she knew the truth. He didn't believe her cover. Not fully. Not yet. But he wasn't turning her away either. And that was even more dangerous. Because a man like Alejandro Cruz didn't keep strangers nearby. Unless he saw something in them. Something he wanted to understand. Something he wanted to test. Something he wanted to break or save. And for reasons she couldn't explain, that thought terrified her far more than being caught. The neighborhood had a way of revealing people. Some broke fast, talking too much, asking the wrong questions, trying to get close to the wrong faces too quickly. Others stayed on the edges, watching, waiting, never really blending in. But eventually, everyone showed who they were. Everyone except her. Over the next few days, Alejandro kept seeing her. Not in obvious places, not chasing him. Not trying to flirt her way into his circle like some women did when they wanted proximity to power. She was just there, like background noise that refused to fade. Sitting on the steps in front of the hardware store, drinking cheap coffee from a paper cup. carrying a bag of groceries up the stairs of her building, walking through the alley at the same time. Every evening, hoodie up, headphones in, eyes always a little too aware for someone supposedly lost in music. He noticed things. He noticed she never lingered near the corners where his men dealt, never tried to latch onto the loudest guys, the ones who liked to show off, never asked questions that didn't sound natural. She listened more than she spoke, and people who listened were dangerous. One night, he watched from across the street as a drunk guy staggered too close to her. She could have ignored him, walked away. Instead, she shifted subtly, weight on her back leg, one arm free, her body angled just a little. It was the stance of someone ready for a fight, not a civilian, not a scared girl, someone trained. The drunk didn't notice, but Alejandro did. He lit a cigarette without really wanting one, eyes following her as she waited for the guy to move on before continuing her path toward her building. "She's not from here," one of his men muttered beside him. Alejandro didn't look. "Away." "Yeah," he said quietly. "I know." He should have told them to keep her away. He should have had someone dig into her past, shake her down, scare her off their block. That was what he did with unknown variables. Instead, he found himself watching, testing, pushing. The next time he crossed her path, it wasn't an accident. She was sitting outside a small food stand, eating alone, a plastic plate balanced on her knees, steam rising into the cool evening air. Alejandro approached with two of his guys, their presence turning the street quieter, tighter. She didn't bolt, didn't shrink. She just looked up, eyes meeting his, wary but steady. "Food here is good," he said, nodding toward her plate. She took a bite, shrugged lightly. "Cheap, too." One of his men chuckled. "You talking about the food or the neighborhood?" She didn't take the bait, just kept eating. Alejandro sat down at the table beside hers, close enough to talk, far enough not to crowd her. He ordered something with a tilt of his chin. The owner rushed to prepare it. Power like his didn't need to raise its voice. "You work?" he asked, tone casual. She nodded. "Here and there." "Doing what?" She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "Whatever pays." It was a good answer, a safe one. Too safe. "People who say whatever pays usually mean trouble," he said. She finally allowed herself a half smile. "People who assume that are usually right in the middle of it." His men shifted slightly, waiting for his reaction. They weren't used to anyone talking to him like that. Alejandro studied her for a moment. "You got people here? Family?" "No." The answer was quick, too quick. "Just me." That told him more than a longer story ever could. No backup, no witnesses, no one to ask questions if she disappeared. "You know who I am?" he asked suddenly. There it was, the knife on the table, blade still in its sheath, but visible. She didn't blink. "I know everyone looks at you before they make a move," she said. "That tells me enough." That was not what he expected. He leaned back slightly, something like amusement flickering in his eyes. "Most people either fear me or pretend they don't know me." "And which one do you want me to do?" she asked. He held her gaze. "I want you to be honest." The silence between them deepened. His men exchanged a confused look. No one got this kind of conversation from him. No one got curiosity instead of suspicion. She thought for a second. "I think you're dangerous," she said plainly, "but I also think dangerous people are usually just the ones the world failed first." For the first time, something shifted in his expression. She didn't flinch, didn't apologize, didn't look away. She just went back to eating. Alejandro felt something unfamiliar crawl under his skin. Not anger, not fear, something that felt a lot like being seen. Not as Cruz, not as the gang leader, not as the threat, but as a man who had once been a boy in this same neighborhood, making choices he never really had the luxury not to make. He stood up slowly, his food untouched. "You're not like the others around here," he said. She swallowed, looked up again. I could say the same thing about you. He almost smiled. Almost. Then he turned away, his men following behind him. As he walked off, one of them asked, "You want us to keep an eye on her?" Alejandro thought about it for a long second. "Yeah," he said finally. "Keep her close. But don't touch her." "Why?" the man asked. Alejandro didn't answer, because he didn't know yet. All he knew was that if she was a threat, he wanted to be the first to figure it out. And if she wasn't, she was already becoming a different kind of danger, one he didn't know how to fight. 2 weeks into her undercover assignment, the line between who she was and who she pretended to be started to blur in a way she wasn't prepared for. She had handled dangerous men before, infiltrated violent groups, gained trust, manipulated egos, survived ambushes, but nothing had ever felt like this. Nothing had ever involved someone like Alejandro Cruz. Every time she got close to him, every time he studied her with those dark, unreadable eyes, the mission felt different, more dangerous, more personal, more confusing. And then came the night everything snapped. She had just left the small grocery store near her building when a police cruiser turned the corner, headlights washing over her face. The car slowed. Much too precisely. She felt her stomach tighten. One of the officers rolled down the window. "Hey, you live around here?" Her chest seized. She knew that voice. Detective Harris, her supervisor on the undercover op. A man who never appeared in the field unless something was wrong. She forced a tired smile. "Yeah, just picking up dinner." Harris stepped out of the car, closing the door quietly, too quietly. His partner remained inside, watching her like a hawk. "You talk to anyone interesting?" "Tonight?" Harris asked, his tone deceptively casual. She froze for a second, just one, but he noticed. He always noticed. "I talk to lots of people," she replied. "It's a crowded neighborhood. You know who I'm talking about." He walked a step closer, his voice dropping. "Cruz." Her heart hammered once, painfully. "What about him?" she asked, careful, steady. Harris narrowed his eyes. "We saw him earlier, couple blocks down, and we saw you eating in the same spot he uses to scout his own men." Her blood went cold. They had seen that. Harris crossed his arms. "You get anything from him?" She should have said yes. She should have nodded, acted confident, fed him whatever lie she'd prepared. But instead, she froze. Not because she feared failing the mission, but because some part of her, the part she tried to suffocate every time Cruz looked at her like he could see through her, didn't want to hand him over. Not yet. Not like this. "He didn't say anything useful," she finally said. Harris studied her silently, his jaw tightening. "That's not what I asked." He stepped closer, voice low. "Are you getting close to him? Because if you're compromised, I need to pull you out before you get yourself killed." She swallowed. Compromised. The word felt like a blade. "I'm fine," she forced out. "You don't look fine." He leaned even closer. "You look like someone who's starting to sympathize." Her pulse spiked, but her expression didn't break. "I'm doing my job." "Then prove it." Harris stepped back. "Give me something on Cruz. Anything." She hesitated. Just a second. Just long enough for him to see the crack. "You're lying," he whispered. "I can feel it." She clenched her teeth. "I told you everything I know." "No," he said. "You didn't." The silence between them felt heavier than the whole street. Then the radio inside the patrol car crackled. "Unit 32, we have a report of shots fired near the river. Might be Cruz's boys." Harris held her gaze for another 2 seconds. A warning, a threat, a plea, all mixed into one, before turning toward the car, but he paused halfway in. "One more thing," he said. "If you're hiding something from me, from us, we'll find out." She nodded stiffly, but inside her heart twisted. And then, as if the night itself wanted to punish her, her phone buzzed. A message, a number she shouldn't have saved. Unknown. Heard cops are sniffing around you. Meet me at the bridge in 10. Her breath caught. Harris was still watching her from the car mirror. She forced her face neutral, shoved the phone into her pocket and walked away like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. She should have told Harris. She should have given him the message. She should have shut the whole operation down. Instead, she turned left, away from her apartment, away from safety, toward the bridge, toward him. And as she walked through the dim streets, the truth hit her like a punch. She had just lied to her commander for a gang leader. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. It was the first real crack. And deep down she knew, once something cracks, it never goes back to what it was. The bridge sat on the edge of the neighborhood, half lit by a flickering street lamp, the river below reflecting the city like a broken mirror. It was quiet in a way that shouldn't have been quiet, not in a place controlled by Cruz's men. Too quiet, too deliberate. He was testing her. Of course he was, but she didn't realize that yet. When she arrived, Alejandro stood alone near the railing, hands in the pockets of his jacket, head slightly tilted as if he could hear her footsteps before she even reached him. "You came," he said without turning around. "I shouldn't have," she answered. "That's not what I asked." He finally looked at her and the night shifted. His eyes scanned her face, the tension, the fatigue, the fear she'd tried to bury under layers of professionalism. She didn't know it, but he could read people better than any. Profiler. And she had something in her expression he couldn't ignore. Conflict. "Your cop friend interrogated you, didn't he?" he asked. Her pulse jumped. She hated how quickly he figured things out. "How do you know about that?" she snapped. Alejandro almost smiled. "Because the cops don't move through my streets without me hearing their footsteps." He leaned against the railing casually. "They're nervous, which means you're nervous." She crossed her arms. "I'm not nervous." He tilted his head, studying her like she was a puzzle with missing pieces. "Everyone lies," he said softly, "but some lies tell more truth than the truth." She hated how he spoke, like every word carried another meaning. "Why did you call me here?" she asked, keeping her voice sharp. Alejandro pushed off the railing and stepped closer. Not too close, not threatening, just close enough to test how she reacted. She didn't step back. "Good," he noticed. "I need to know one thing," he said, "and I need you to answer honestly." She swallowed. "What thing?" His eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment she felt everything else disappear. The city, the risk, the badge she wasn't allowed to carry anymore. "Are the cops watching me through you?" Her breath caught. This was the test, the first real one. Her mind raced. What answer kept her alive? What answer maintained the mission? What answer prevented him from digging deeper? "They're watching everyone," she said carefully. "This neighborhood is practically a pressure cooker. They don't trust me either." It was the truth, wrapped inside a lie. Alejandro stepped even closer. "So you didn't tell them anything?" "No." That was a lie. She had told Harris something, that she had nothing, and that was enough to keep her safe, for now. But Alejandro didn't know that. He watched her face, reading the micro-reactions, the twitch in her jaw, the way her lips pressed together after she spoke. He had interrogated dozens of people in his life. Traitors, rivals, liars, cowards. She wasn't any of those things. She was steady, defiant. And when she said no, he could feel she wasn't trying to manipulate him. She was protecting something. Maybe herself, maybe him, maybe both. For the first time, he felt something tighten inside his chest, the beginning of a dangerous trust. A trust he had no right to give her. A trust she didn't want, but had just earned without even knowing the test was happening. He looked away, almost frustrated with himself. "Good," he muttered, "because if the cops were using you, I'd have to deal with that." Her blood went cold. "Deal with it how?" she asked. Alejandro didn't answer. He didn't need to. She already knew. But then, unexpectedly, he softened his tone. "Look," he said almost reluctantly, "I don't want to hurt you." Her pulse stuttered. Dangerous words. Too dangerous. "You don't even know me," she said. He took a slow breath. "That's the problem," he murmured. "I'm starting to." Silence hung between them, heavy and electric. Then he stepped back, giving her space again. "Go home," he said quietly, "and be careful who you talk to." His voice carried something she wasn't ready to name. "What about you?" she asked. "I'll handle my side." He turned away. "I always do." She stood there for a long moment, watching his silhouette fade into the shadows of the neighborhood he ruled. She had lied to the police. She had protected him. And now, he trusted her more. Too much more. It was the first slip neither of them could take back, and it was pulling them both deeper into something neither one was equipped to survive. She felt the shift before she saw it. The neighborhood had a rhythm, a subtle, gritty heartbeat that she'd learned to track like a second pulse. People moved with purpose. Cars turned the same corners at the same hours. The same old woman swept the same piece of sidewalk every morning. Kids played in the alley at exactly 5 p.m. until someone shouted them home. But tonight, the rhythm was off. Someone was watching her. She sensed it from the moment she stepped out of her building. Eyes tracking her. Slow, deliberate. Not like Alejandro, who watched her with calculation and something else she refused to name. This was different, rougher, hungrier, predatory. She didn't break stride, didn't turn her head, didn't reach for the weapon she wasn't supposed to have. She kept walking, steady, calm, until she rounded the corner by the liquor store. That's when she saw him. Leon, one of Alejandro's men, tattoos snaking up his neck, eyes cold, sharp, bored in a violent way. A man who enjoyed hurting for sport, and he was leaning against the wall like he'd been waiting for her. "Evening," he said, pushing off the bricks. "We need to talk." Her muscles tightened, not from fear, but from calculation. "What about?" she asked. Leon smirked. "Word is, you've been spending a lot of time around Cruz." She kept her face perfectly neutral. So, he stepped closer. "Cruz forgets things sometimes, like who belongs to him and who doesn't." Every instinct screamed danger. "I don't belong to anyone," she said. Leon laughed softly, amused, like he'd just heard the punchline of a joke she didn't understand. "That's what they all say before someone ends up dead." Her heartbeat quickened, her breathing didn't. Training kicked in. Posture relaxed, shoulders down, weight balanced on the balls of her feet. The stance of a woman pretending not to be a threat while preparing for one. But Leon noticed. Of course he did. "You fight?" he asked, stepping even closer. "Only when necessary." He grinned, too wide, too eager. "Oh, sweetheart. Tonight it's necessary." He reached for her arm. And in that split second she moved. A tight pivot, a controlled twist, and his hand didn't even graze her. She stepped back, keeping distance, jaw set, eyes sharp. "Don't touch me," she warned. Leon froze. Not because of her, but because of the voice behind. "Her?" "Touch her," Alejandro said quietly, "and you die." The air snapped tight like a live wire. Alejandro stepped out of the shadows, hood down, expression carved from stone. His men, who normally laughed and joked around him, now watched him like he was a storm rolling in. Leon's smirk faded instantly. "Alejandro, did I tell you to come near her?" Alejandro asked, voice low. Leon swallowed. "I was just checking her out, making sure she ain't a problem." Alejandro walked toward him, slow, controlled, terrifying. "And you think," he murmured, "that I need you to decide who's a problem?" Leon's eyes flicked nervously between them. "I didn't mean—" "Yes," Alejandro cut in. "You did." Leon tried to step back. Alejandro didn't let him. He grabbed Leon by the collar, pinning him against the wall with a force that made the bricks crack behind him. His voice was cold enough to frost glass. "If you ever come near her again, if you even say her name wrong, I'll put a bullet in your mouth. Before you apologize." Leon's face drained of color. I got it, won't happen again." Alejandro let go abruptly. Leon stumbled, coughing, before running off down the alley without looking back. Silence, heavy, electrified, breathing between them. She exhaled slowly. "You didn't have to do that." Alejandro turned to her, that same unreadable intensity burning in his eyes. "Yes," he said softly. "I did." She shook her head. "Now he's suspicious. He'll talk." "He won't," Alejandro replied. "Because he knows I'll kill him if he does." She stared at him, the weight of what he'd done settling between them. "You can't keep doing that," she whispered, "protecting me like this." Alejandro stepped closer, too close, forcing her to feel the heat of him, the gravity of him, the dangerous truth behind everything he did. "I don't protect people," he said. "I never have." His eyes locked onto hers. "But I protect you." Her breath caught. "Why?" she asked, barely a whisper. Alejandro looked at her like he wished he knew the answer. "Because I trust you," he murmured. "More than I should, more than is safe." Her chest tightened. He wasn't lying. She felt it. And that truth, that raw, reckless trust, was more dangerous than any gun in the barrio. Alejandro stepped back only when he sensed she couldn't breathe. "Go home," he said quietly. "Stay inside tonight." She didn't move. She didn't speak. And he added, even softer, "Because if something happens to you, I won't survive." It was the first confession neither of them meant to say, and the moment she realized, she wasn't just undercover anymore. She was already in too deep. The night the barrio exploded didn't start with sirens. It started with silence. That thick, wrong kind of silence. The one that falls over a place that is usually loud. No music, no cars revving, no laughter spilling from open windows. Just heavy air and doors that closed a little too early. She noticed it the moment she stepped out onto the balcony of her rented room. The street below looked the same, but it felt different. People moved faster, heads turned more. Conversations faded when someone walked by. Something was coming, and whatever it was, everyone knew, except her. Her phone buzzed, not her real phone, the burner, the one with a number only two people had, Harris and Alejandro. The message was short: "Get off the street, now." H. Her heart dropped. She didn't respond, didn't ask questions. She grabbed the first hoodie within reach and ran downstairs. Outside, the tension was thicker. She saw kids being pulled inside by anxious mothers, doors slamming, windows closing. And in the distance, the faint echo of something she hoped she was wrong about. Boots, marching, in rhythm. She turned the corner, and her worst suspicion was confirmed. Police, not two, not a patrol car, a convoy, SUVs, uniformed officers, tactical gear. The kind of operation that doesn't come to ask questions. A raid. Her stomach knotted. This wasn't part of the plan. Not hers, at least. She blended into the shadow of a narrow alley, hood up, hands in her pockets, as if she were just another resident trying to avoid trouble. But inside, everything churned. If Harris was leading this, he'd done it without telling her. Which meant one of two things. He didn't trust her anymore. Or he was using her as bait. Neither option felt good. The officers spread out, fanning through the streets, banging on doors, shouting commands. Some residents complied, hands in the air, faces blank with the fear they were used to. Others yelled. One man threw a bottle. It shattered at the feet of a cop, and the mood changed instantly. Shields went up. Guns rose. Tension snapped into open threat. She scanned the chaos, heart pounding, looking for one face. Alejandro. She knew he wouldn't run at the first sign of danger. Men like him didn't run. They repositioned, calculated, struck later. But tonight, he didn't have time. She heard the First flashbang before she saw it. A deafening crack. White light swallowing the street. People screamed. Someone fell. An officer started shouting for everyone to get down. In the middle of it all, she spotted him, standing on the corner near the bodega, jaw clenched, eyes burning, hands empty. For now. Two of his men flanked him, arms tense, ready to go for their guns. If they did, it would be a massacre. Her brain split in two directions at once. The cop in her calculated angles, numbers, the inevitability of blood on concrete if this escalated. The woman who had listened to Alejandro joke with kids and pay for strangers' groceries felt something entirely different. Panic. For him. She moved without thinking. "Don't!" she hissed, appearing at his side as if she materialized from the dark. His men reached for their guns on instinct when they saw her, until Alejandro raised a hand. "Stand down," he ordered. They froze. He turned to her, eyes sharp. "You shouldn't be out here," he said. "Neither should you," she fired back. He almost smiled. "Even now, even here. You think I'm going to hide in some basement while they drag my people out of their homes?" She grabbed his arm without thinking. "You think they care who they drag out? They're not here to arrest, they're here to send a message. If you give them a reason, they'll bury this place." His eyes flicked to her hand, then back to her face. "For a cop, you're awfully concerned about me." The words hit like a slap, because for one terrifying second, she thought he meant them literally, that he knew. But then a squad of officers turned the corner, and there was no time left to question anything. "Hands where I can see them," one of them shouted. His gaze locked onto Alejandro. Her body reacted before her mind. She stepped forward. "Officer," she called out, slipping back into the tone she'd used 100 times on real operations, confident, firm, too natural. For a split second, Alejandro froze. Not because of the cops, but because of the voice. That voice, the one that sounded like it belonged to the other side of the line. The officer hesitated. "Who are you?" "Local," she lied smoothly. "He hasn't done anything. The ones you're looking for ran that way, toward the river. I saw them." The lie slid out clean, coated in the rhythm of truth. Alejandro stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time, and maybe he was. The officer's eyes narrowed. He looked her up and down, weighing the risk of listening to a stranger versus losing momentum. Another cop shouted from behind him, "We've got movement on the north side. 2 armed suspects." The choice was made for him. "Fine," he muttered. "Stay inside, both of you." He pointed at Alejandro. "You, go home. We'll be back." They moved on, the street exhalo. For a moment, it was just the two of them again. "You lied," Alejandro said quietly. She turned to him, pulse still racing. "I lie a lot." "But this time," he said, tone low, "almost dangerous. You lied to protect me in front of them." She didn't answer. He stepped closer. "Who are you, Lena?" Her heart slammed against her ribs. For one terrifying moment, she thought he could hear it. "I'm nobody," she said. "Just someone who doesn't want to see more blood on these streets." The doubt in his eyes didn't disappear, but something else joined it. Respect, and something far more dangerous. "You had a choice," he murmured. "You could have let them take me. You didn't." Neither of them said the other possibility out loud. She could have exposed him. She could have yelled, "He's the one you want." Instead, she'd stepped in front of him, between him and a line of guns. Tonight, the raid would go down in reports as an operation with limited results. No mention of the woman who'd kept the calm from turning into a war. No mention of the moment she made her choice. Not for the law, not for the badge, but for the man the law called the enemy. And as the last siren faded into the distance, she realized something that made her knees weak. She hadn't just chosen his side in public. She had chosen his side, in her heart. And there was no going back from that. The barrio was never truly quiet, but the day after the raid, it felt muted, like the streets were holding their breath. Smoke still lingered in the air, Broken glass glittered in gutters. Doors stayed locked longer than usual. People whispered instead of talking, and she felt all of it sitting heavy on her skin. The lie she'd told the police had changed something. In her. In him. Between them. She felt it every time she replayed the moment she stepped in front of Alejandro and the officers backed down. It hadn't been strategy. It hadn't been calculation. It had been instinct. And instincts get people killed. She spent the day pacing her room, checking the window, checking the alley, checking her burner phone, waiting for Harris to call. He didn't. Waiting for the DEA to reprimand her. They didn't. Waiting for Alejandro to show up. He didn't. Not until nightfall. She heard the knock. 3 slow taps, 1 fast. Their unspoken signal. She froze. When she opened the door, Alejandro didn't step in. He didn't say a word. He just looked at her like he'd been trying, and failing, to stay away all day. "You okay?" she asked quietly. He nodded once. "You?" She tried to nod, but something in his face stopped her. He looked different. Not angry, not suspicious. Something deeper. Something she didn't know how to read. "What happened?" she whispered. Alejandro looked over his shoulder, checking the hallway, then stepped inside and closed the door behind him. He walked to the middle of the room, hands on his hips, exhaling sharply. "Someone's been asking about you," he said. Her heartbeat stopped. "Who?" "People who shouldn't even know your name." Her blood went cold. "Members of the cartel?" she asked. Alejandro's eyes lifted slowly to hers. "No. Worse." Her stomach twisted. There was only one answer. "The cops," he said. She sat down hard on the edge of the bed. Of course. She had lied. She had diverted officers. She had interfered with a federal operation. The DEA had eyes everywhere, cameras, informants, recon. And last night she had been caught in the middle of it, not as an agent, but as someone protecting a criminal. "What did they say?" she asked. Alejandro looked away. "That depends on which cops you're asking about." Her breath caught in her chest. There were only 2 sides watching this neighborhood. Police who wanted to arrest him, and police who wanted to control him. He sat down across from her, elbows on his knees, voice low. "2 men cornered one of my guys today, asked about you." "What did he say?" "That he didn't know anything," Alejandro replied. "Which is true. But the cops didn't believe him." She swallowed. "Did they hurt him?" Alejandro's jaw tightened. "They tried." That single word, tried, told her everything. Someone got hurt today because of her. She felt sick. "This isn't just local cops," Alejandro continued. "These men didn't have badges on. They didn't give names, but they asked the right questions, the kind only real investigators ask." She closed her eyes. The DEA. It had to be. Harris must have reported her behavior. Someone must have pulled surveillance footage. Someone must have noticed her standing too close to him during the raid. All the lies, all the precautions, all the masks, cracking. Alejandro watched her carefully. "You're not telling me something," he said. She forced herself to meet his eyes. No flinch, no break. "People don't like strangers here," she said. "Maybe they're suspicious because I'm new." Alejandro shook his head slowly. "That's not it. They knew what building you live in. They knew what time you go to the store. They knew you were with me last night." Her breath caught. Last night, right after she lied for him. "They're looking for a leak," he said. "Someone who might be connected to the raid." Her throat tightened. "And you think they believe it's me?" Alejandro didn't speak. His silence said everything. She stood up, pacing, her mind spinning with calculations. If the DEA was sniffing around her cover, they were getting close, too close. She turned back to him. "You need to stay away from me." Alejandro didn't move. "You don't get it," she insisted. "If they think I'm connected to you, they do," he cut in. She froze. "And if you stay close to me," she whispered, "they'll kill you." He walked toward her. slow, deliberate, each step heavy with something she didn't want to name. "If they were going to kill me," he murmured, "they would have tried already." "That's not how the DEA works," she snapped. He stopped, dead still. Her breath faltered. He noticed, too late. Alejandro's eyes locked onto hers, sharp as a blade, dark as the night outside. "That," he said quietly, "was oddly specific." Her entire body went cold. She had slipped, just once, but once was enough. Alejandro stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper that slid down her spine like ice. "Lena, what exactly do you know about how federal agents work?" Her pulse hammered. She searched for an answer. Any answer. But before she could speak, a loud bang hit the outside door of the building. Another. Her head snapped toward the noise. So did his. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Multiple. Boots pounding up the stairs. Alejandro's face hardened instantly. "They're here," he said. And in that moment, heart racing, adrenaline surging, fear choking her, she realized it wasn't just her identity on the verge of being exposed. It was everything. Her, him, the mission, the lies, the fragile trust between them. It all came crashing down, not because of the cartel, not because of the raid, not because of them, but because the people she worked for had come to collect their traitor. And to them, she was the traitor, not him. The pounding on the building door echoed up, the stairwell like gunshots. Her body reacted before her mind caught up. Years of training, years of drills, years of knowing exactly what that rhythm meant. Not just cops, organized entry. They weren't here to talk. Alejandro moved first. "Get away from the window," he ordered. She didn't argue. She stepped back just as a beam of light cut across the wall from the street, sliding past like a searchlight. "They'll come here," she whispered. "This is the only floor with a room still rented." Alejandro turned to her, the gears in his mind spinning fast. "You said they don't kill right away," he said. "They question first. They want answers." "That's the DEA," she said. "Local enforcement?" She shook her head. "Depends who sent them." Another crash, closer this time, second floor, her floor. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She could already hear the radio chatter in her head, even though it hadn't started yet. She knew how they moved, how they thought, how they spoke when they were hunting one of their own. "Lena," Alejandro said, stepping closer, forcing her eyes to meet his. "Look at me." She did. "Is this about you?" he asked. "Or about me?" She swallowed hard. "Both," she admitted. He nodded once, as if he'd expected that answer all along. "Then they're not just here to arrest someone. They're here to make an example." Voices echoed in the hallway now. Multiple boots, multiple shadows under the door. She reached instinctivamente para o lugar onde o coldre costumava estar. Só então lembrou. A arma oficial tinha ficado no cofre do departamento. Ela só tinha a peça fria e ilegal na gaveta, a que fazia dela oficialmente não uma agente, mas uma criminosa. Alejandro viu o gesto. "Don't draw on them," he warned. "You pull that gun, they'll shoot first and ask questions over your body." She let her hand fall. "Then what do we do?" she asked. He exhaled, long and controlled. "We don't let them find us here." He crossed the room, pulled aside a worn curtain, revealing a small, almost invisible panel in the wall. "You're not the only one hiding things," he said. Behind the panel, a narrow passage, just enough for one person at a time. Old, dusty, used for emergency exits when business went bad. She stared at it, then at him. "You had a way out," she whispered. "You could have left already." He held her gaze. "I wasn't going to leave you." The words hit harder than the banging on the door. It came again, this time right outside her unit. Loud. Final. "Federal agents, open up," a voice shouted. Her blood froze. She knew that voice. Harris, of course. Her world shrank to the size of the tiny apartment, her past, her present, her lies, her choices, all colliding at once. Alejandro grabbed her wrist, not rough but firm. "We don't have time," he said. "You trust me?" The question slammed into the exact center of everything that had gone wrong in her life over the last few weeks. Did she? Could she? He was the target, the criminal, the man she was supposed to bring down. And yet, when she thought about who had actually stood between her and death, it wasn't the DEA. It was him. Yes, she whispered, surprising even herself. I do. He pulled her toward the panel. The pounding escalated. Last warning, open the door or we breach. She crawled into the passage first, dust choking the back of her throat. Alejandro followed, sliding the panel back in place just as the lock on her front door exploded under the force of a battering ram. They moved through darkness, guided only by the dim light seeping in through cracks in the walls. Below them she could hear muffled shouts. Clear the bathroom. Check the closet. She's not here. Then Harris's voice. She has to be. Find Cruz. He's with her. She felt the words like a brand. Alejandro was quiet, moving close behind her, one hand sometimes brushing her ankle to make sure she didn't lose her balance on the narrow pathway. It should have felt claustrophobic. Instead, it felt like the only place in the world that made sense. They emerged in a back stairwell that opened into an alley behind the building. The air outside felt cold and sharp, like being plunged into reality. Alejandro checked the corner, eyes scanning for uniforms. Nothing. Yet. They'll have the front covered, he said. Not the back. Not yet. You knew they'd come one day, she asked. He gave a humorless half-smile. People like me don't get surprise endings, just delayed ones. They moved, quickly sticking to shadows, avoiding cameras she knew were there but couldn't see. Every corner she turned, every alley she crossed, she thought of the faces behind the badges. People que tinham treinado com ela, confiado nela, coberto ela em operação, e que agora a consideravam uma traidora. At the end of the alley, Alejandro paused and turned to her. You can still go back, he said. She stared at him. What? You can walk into that building right now, he said, nodding toward the front. Tell them I forced you. Tell them you were working me from the inside. They'll put you through hell, but they'll take you back. People like you always have a way back. People like you, cops, clean, salvaves. Her throat tightened. You think I want that? She asked. I think you want to live, he replied. She stepped closer, anger and heartbreak boiling in equal measure. I lied for you. I put myself between you and them. And right now, when they're hunting both of us, you think I'm going to crawl back and tell them you dragged me? He watched her silently, conflict flickering behind his eyes. Why then? He asked. Why are you here? Why didn't you let them take me? She could have said the mission. She could have said strategy. She could have said, I need you as a source. But none of those things were true anymore. Because when the door was breaking and the boots were coming and the world was closing in, she hadn't been thinking like a cop. She'd been thinking like a woman who didn't want to lose him. I don't know, she whispered. I just couldn't. Alejandro exhaled slowly, not in frustration, but in something that sounded terrifyingly like relief. Then we both made the same mistake, he said quietly. What mistake? He took a step closer. Caring. Sirens surged louder at the end of the block. Someone shouted. Light cut across the alley entrance. No more time. He grabbed her hand. Come on, he said. If they want you as their traitor, they're going to have to catch you first. They ran, side by side, against everything she had once believed in, against everything he had once accepted as inevitable. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't sure if she was running away from the law or running toward the only truth she had left. She should have arrested him, but instead, when it mattered most, he was the one who saved her. They didn't stop running until the barrio was far behind them, until the sirens faded into distant echoes and the shadows swallowed their silhouettes. Alejandro led her through back alleys, down broken stairwells, across abandoned yards, until they slipped into a forgotten industrial block where even rats avoided the dark. Only then did he slow down. Only then did he let her catch her breath. Her chest heaved, lungs burning. adrenaline still clawing at her nerves. But the moment she looked at him, really looked, everything inside her stilled. He wasn't out of breath. He wasn't scared. He was focused, sharp, deadly, calm, like a man who'd been preparing for this moment his entire life. "We can't stay here," she said, pressing a hand against the cold brick wall. "They'll track us. Harris won't stop until—" Alejandro turned to her, eyes steady in a way that terrified her more than the raid. "Harris isn't after me anymore," he said. "He's after you." The truth cut deeper than any wound. "They think you betrayed them," he continued. "They think you flipped, and maybe—" He hesitated. "Maybe they're not entirely wrong." She looked away. The night felt heavier than the sky itself. "You can still fix this," he said gently. "You can walk back into that building. Tell them you were undercover. Tell them I kidnapped you." "No," she snapped. He flinched, not from fear, but from something far rarer in him: surprise. "No?" he repeated. She swallowed hard, forcing words through the knot in her throat. "I'm not turning you in so I can save myself." Anger flickered behind his eyes, not at her, but at the world that forced this moment upon them. "You're a cop," he whispered. "A good one. You spent your whole life believing in that badge." "My whole life," she agreed, "until I realized the badge doesn't always protect the right people." He closed the distance between them slowly, as if approaching something fragile. "You're throwing your career away." "I know." "Your future." "Yeah." "Your freedom." A beat passed. "Maybe," she said. His voice cracked. "Then why?" She didn't move, didn't blink, didn't run. Instead, she looked up at him, the man she was sent to destroy, the man she wasn't supposed to care about, the man who had saved her more than once. "Because when everything went bad," she whispered, "you were the only one who stood between me and a bullet." Silence stretched between them, thick with everything unsaid. He exhaled, voice low. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe," she said again, "but it's mine to make." His jaw clenched, frustration etched into the lines of his face. "You could have had a clean life, a safe one." "Safe," she repeated, almost laughing. "Safe has nothing to do with you." He looked away, running a hand through his hair, trying to restrain emotions he'd buried long before he ever met her. Then he said something she never expected. "You can still walk away from me right now." Her breath hitched. "If you go that way," he said, pointing down the road, "you can find your way back to a police perimeter. You hand yourself in, you testify against me. They'll cut you. A deal, you'll live." He turned and pointed the opposite direction. "If you go that way, it's with me. No badge, no backup, no laws, just survival." The air between them tightened, charged with choice. Two paths, two futures, two versions of who she could become. A police siren wailed in the far distance, one last reminder of the life she was leaving behind. She stepped closer to Alejandro. He barely breathed. "You think I'm choosing between the badge and you," she said quietly. "I am," he replied. "No," she corrected softly. "I'm choosing between fear and what feels true." His expression shattered, just a fraction, but enough for her to see the man beneath the reputation. "And what feels true?" he asked. She lifted her chin. "That I don't want to run from you," she said. "If I have to run, I want to run with you." A storm passed behind his eyes, something dangerous, something soft, something he didn't want to feel, but did anyway. He reached for her hand slowly, as if giving her one last chance to pull away. She didn't. Their fingers intertwined, a decision sealed. No badge, no protection, no turning back. "Then we go together," he said. "Whatever comes next." She nodded. Together. And as they disappeared into the dark, chased by both sides of the law, she realized. She should have arrested him, she should have walked away, she should have protected her badge. But instead, she chose him, and that choice would change everything. Se essa história te prendeu até aqui, imagina o que vem na próxima. Me conta nos comentários o que você faria no lugar dela e se você acha que eles têm chance de sobreviver juntos. Deixa o like, se inscreve e ativa o sininho porque tem história nova toda semana. Até a próxima!